She came to finalize the divorce. He froze when he realized she was 7 months pregnant. Sometimes life brings two people into the same room for the last time, not to fight, but to remember what it means to be human. Sometimes the coldest moments carry the warmest turning points. And sometimes, kindness shows up when both hearts are already tired of breaking. This is one of those stories that begins with an ending, and quietly becomes a beginning no one expected. Before the story begins, take a moment to support our channel, Kindness Tales. If stories about compassion, second chances, and quiet human moments move you, please subscribe, like this video, and share your thoughts in the comments. Your support helps us share more stories that remind the world kindness still matters. The morning Sarah walked into the courthouse, she told herself she would not cry. Not in the hallway. Not in front of strangers. Not in front of Mark. This was supposed to be simple. Papers signed. A door closed. A chapter finished. She wore a loose gray coat, even though it was warm for early spring. It wasn't a fashion choice. It was armor. Mark was already there when she arrived, sitting stiffly on a wooden bench, staring at his phone like it held answers. They hadn't spoken in 6 months, not since the night everything finally fell apart. No shouting. No slammed doors. Just exhaustion and silence, which somehow hurt more. When he looked up and saw her, his face tightened. He stood politely, like you do for a stranger you once loved deeply but no longer know how to speak to. "Morning," he said. "Morning," she replied. They sat on opposite ends of the bench. The air between them felt heavy, crowded with memories neither wanted to touch. Their marriage hadn't ended because of betrayal or cruelty. It ended because of stress, grief, and two people who didn't know how to be gentle with each other when life became hard. Mark had lost his job. Sarah had lost her mother. Bills piled up. Conversations turned into arguments. Arguments turned into silence. And silence became the decision to let go. The clerk called their names. Inside the small office, everything smelled like paper and disinfectant. The judge spoke calmly, explaining procedures like this was just another appointment. For him, it was. For Sarah, it felt like standing on the edge of a cliff. As she reached for the pen, her hand shook. That's when Mark noticed. He looked at her more closely for the first time since she walked in. Not her face. Her body. The way she sat. The way the coat pulled strangely at the front. The way she shifted uncomfortably. His eyes widened. "Sarah," he said quietly. "Are you?" She froze. For a moment, she considered pretending she didn't understand. But kindness begins with honesty, even when it's uncomfortable. She slowly unbuttoned her coat. 7 months pregnant. The room went silent. Mark's face drained of color. He didn't sit down. He didn't speak. He just stared, like the world had tilted without warning. "What?" His voice cracked. "Why didn't you tell me?" Sarah swallowed hard. "I didn't think it mattered anymore." The judge cleared his throat gently and stepped out, giving them privacy. That small act, that quiet respect, was the first kindness of the day. Tears filled Mark's eyes. "That's my child." "Yes," she said softly. "It is." He sat down slowly, his hands trembling. "Why would you go through this alone?" Sarah looked at the floor. "Because when I tried to tell you before, we were already falling apart. You were overwhelmed. I didn't want to be another burden." That word hit him harder than anything else. Burden. He remembered nights she cooked while exhausted. Mornings she smiled even when her eyes were sad. All the moments he had been so consumed by his own fear that he stopped noticing hers. "I never meant for you to feel alone," he whispered. "I know," she replied. "But feeling alone doesn't always come from bad intentions." They sat there, two people humbled by a truth too big to ignore. Mark took a deep breath. I'm not asking you to stop the divorce, he said carefully. I know we hurt each other. But I can't walk away from this. From you. From our child. Sarah looked at him, searching for something familiar. Sincerity. Responsibility. Kindness. What are you saying? She asked. I'm saying I want to show up, he said. Not as your husband, if that's not what you want. But as a father. As a human being who still cares. Her eyes filled with tears she had been holding back for months. I was scared you'd be angry. I am, he said honestly. But not at you. At myself. They didn't sign the papers that day. Instead, they went to a small cafe across the street. They talked for hours. About doctor appointments. About names. About fears. About how neither of them had known how to ask for help. Mark insisted on driving her home. When she struggled climbing the stairs, he offered his arm. She hesitated, then accepted. That simple gesture carried more healing than 1,000 apologies. Over the next weeks, Mark showed up. Not dramatically. Not perfectly. Just consistently. He went to ultrasounds. He helped paint the nursery in Sarah's apartment. He learned how to assemble a crib by watching online videos at midnight. He listened more than he spoke. And Sarah, slowly, allowed herself to accept help. That wasn't easy. Independence had become her shield. But kindness, she realized, sometimes means letting someone else be kind to you. They didn't rush forgiveness. They didn't pretend the past hadn't hurt. They went to counseling, not to save a marriage, but to learn how to co-parent with respect. When the baby arrived, a little girl with Mark's eyes and Sarah's calm gaze, both of them cried. Not because everything was fixed. But because something good had grown from something broken. Months later, the divorce was finalized peacefully. They hugged afterward. Not as spouses, but as partners in something bigger than their pain. On weekends, Mark took his daughter to the park. Sarah watched from a bench, smiling. Sometimes they talked. Sometimes they didn't. But there was kindness in every interaction. One evening, as Mark buckled the baby into her car seat, Sarah said, "Thank you for freezing that day." He smiled gently. "Thank you for unbuttoning your coat." Life doesn't always give us second chances in the ways we expect. Sometimes kindness doesn't mean staying together. Sometimes it means choosing respect over resentment, presence over pride, compassion over fear. That courthouse moment could have ended in anger. Instead, it became a turning point because two people chose kindness when it would have been easier to walk away. If this story moved you, remember this: kindness doesn't always come with grand gestures. Sometimes it comes in quiet listening. In showing up. In owning mistakes. In holding space for someone else's truth. And when we choose kindness, even at the end of something, we might discover a new beginning waiting on the other side. Thank you for watching Kindness Tales. May this story remind you that kindness can change lives, including your own.